Those out here can get, like that big.
No, dude, there's no way, dude.
Yeah,
No way.
it's kind of freaky
I
actually,
don't.
watching one
I
of
gotta
those
look
things
that.
float around in front of your face. But
That must be genetically modified mosquitoes.
yeah, it's just Australia modified.
Yeah.
It's just like things
Yeah.
down
Everything's
here just get
trying to
bigger and
kill you.
scarier. I'm just having a bit
Wild.
of trouble with your audio. I can't hear you that clearly.
With the audio.
That's better. Whatever you just did, maybe just moving it closer.
Okay. I'd like to tell you that I did something, but I don't. I don't know. There we go. Okay. Is that
It's a bit clearer, yeah.
okay? Good.
Yeah, so yeah, the mosquitoes, the spiders, everything just a little bit scarier.
Big. Yeah. Big insects. Everything's just trying to kill you out there. From
Yeah.
what I understand, I mean, that's just what I'm getting filtered through here in America, and just what I envision Australia to be is the second I land, there's just kind of a swarm of insects and animals trying to get my blood.
Yeah. Yeah, you always got to watch your back down under.
Down under, yeah. Yes, sir. I gotta get out. I gotta get out there. I really do. I gotta explore that map. That DLC content with this life, the Australian DLC content, the map expansion. See what you guys got going out there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, next March, that's the plan for the retreat, Sons of God retreat. So it'll be a perfect opportunity for you guys to just get dumped in the bush and fend for yourselves.
I love it. That's the way to describe it. Dumped in the bush. I was dumped in the bush, and then I had to fend for myself. That's the way to describe it. I imagine just a lot of fire, a lot of growling, and chest beating might be part of it.
Yeah, that's the basic plan, is just to keep it extremely primal.
Yes, sir.
So,
I think
brother,
we could do it. You said. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm wondering what you would like to talk about today.
Oh man, what I would like to talk about. Well, I got a couple of brain cells in my head. Let me just. Well, you've been. Well, hold on a second. And this isn't a distraction. I'm curious. Let me take a look at that mug. What kind of a mug do you have going on today? What's your mug game like? Is it your typical Star Wars?
We're,
Oh,
we're a blank slate.
it's a blank slate. It's still a solid vessel. Okay, to bring the delicious substance into you.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the perfect matrimony. We might as well.
All
I mean,
right.
that's what you're making videos on is the perfect matrimony. And why don't we get a little expansion going, or why don't we bridge it to a lot of single guys or a lot of single men, myself included, that are looking at this kind of from the outside in through a window, so to speak, and either because we don't know how, as single men, to properly approach and find a quality woman, quality priestess,
Mm.
or some other reason. But I think that for a lot of single men, it's kind of abstract. Would you say that going from being single, harnessing the sexual energy, not spilling the cup of Hermes, where does that then go into finding that woman? Is that what does that look like?
Well, I can only speak from my own experience. And that is from a time when I wasn't really I wasn't practicing God mode. I just really wanted to find a woman. And I think I just spent enough years telling myself when I'm ready. And I honestly just got over it. Because I just realized I'm never going to be ready. Like, when am I really going to be ready? So I just put my focus on that. And the thing is, like, if I'm being honest, my focus wasn't even really on settling down. It was just like meeting women. I just really wanted to meet women. And it was just in that process of meeting different women, experiencing different women, that I found, and it was because I was retaining through that experience of meeting different women, sleeping with different women, that I really bonded with one woman in particular. And I wouldn't have been able to forge that depth of bond if I wasn't retaining when we were making love. But because I was retaining, the bond just became extremely deep, very fast. And it was just a powerful connection. So I think, I've been talking about this a bit with you, and I think a lot of us have all these expectations around when the time's going to be right and all this stuff I need to have right in my life. But the reality is, in biblical times, for example, men got married young, and it was just a normal thing. It was just so much more normal to get married and to do it young. And, for example, the parents of Jesus, Mary, I believe she was just a teen, like mid-teen, like maybe 15 or 16 years old. I don't know about Joseph, but it shows you that in those times, it was just normal to get married young. And I think that actually, I think that's a very good thing, because our modern perspective is that, we should have ourselves straightened out psychologically. We should have it all figured out, worked out. We should be two complete beings coming together, like healed beings. But the way I see it, it's like, well, why don't we figure that out together? So I think, I'm honestly getting to the point, Stephen, where I'm kind of bored of talking about semen retention. And I'm becoming much more interested in talking about sexual alchemy, because it's like, I kind of get semen retention now. It's pretty simple. It's like, hold your nut and you'll get benefits. I've made over 100 videos about it now, and I'm kind of just like, all right, now what? I've held my nut, I've got benefits, now what? And so that's why I'm really starting to lean into that sexual alchemy.
I think that's absolutely the evolution of the process of it all. Going back to what you were saying about using that attraction that comes from retention to look for women, and eventually you found your wife through that. That wasn't like a week into retention, right? That it took a minute to develop that level of, like, that detachment from the impulse of lust, that, to really be able to interact with women in a natural fashion rather than just the superficial lust. And I think that's the main key is, you can develop a union with a woman without that lustful impulse. And there's a difference between lust and attraction. You can have attraction towards a woman. But then if you're constantly consuming the hub, and your perspective on life, that lens that you're looking life through, is just that lustful kind of need to just absorb all of that, that really takes away from developing an actual relationship with a woman. And like you said, you use the practice of retention to be able to really identify those quality traits within your woman and develop that. And that's different for everybody. There's no set rule, right? It's not like, oh, well, after 2 months, now you can start looking at women, or now you can start, and I think it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody. I myself am now, as I'm finishing going through the perfect matrimony and really working through that perspective shift of actually now looking at women and developing that level of attraction that could lead to a perfect matrimony in my own life. Right now it's just theoretical. But, what do you think that looks like? I mean, because ultimately you're right. It's not all retention. Retention isn't the end game. Of course, it's a marathon. It's something that you want to incorporate in your life. It's a practice. And so, of course, you can make videos and content on just that. But ultimately, yes, you do want to develop attraction and a relationship with a woman. And so the fact that that's kind of where your content is shifting, outside of the perfect matrimony, going through that as a summary, is there anything else that you're kind of looking at to incorporate into that practice, or what? I mean, how do you then get more men into that practice in a healthy way? I'll say this last thing. It takes two to tango, right? And so when you're connecting with another person, when you're connecting with a woman, you have to get vulnerable enough to allow her to cause some significant harm in your life. Essentially, you're opening your chest up and you're allowing her in. And so there needs to be kind of a gatekeep, like it's not like just anybody can come in. And so what are the qualifications? Typically, if you're lusting, it's, oh, she's got a great rack or she's got a great behind. Let me just open myself up and let her, come into my life. But now that we're practicing retention, these qualities become a little more subtle. We're looking more at the feminine traits, the feminine qualities, the temperament. Is she able to speak? Is she able to hold a conversation? Does she have empathy? Does she have a nurturing quality about her? How is she around children? What is her relationship like with her family? Where are you meeting her? Under what circumstance? What do her friends think about her? What is she, how does she talk about you to her friends? These are big marks, I think, that as men, because if, let's say we choose incorrectly, let's say we choose a bad apple, they're able to just, in this environment, I don't know how it is in Australia, but I mean, if you get into a court system with a woman here in the United States, I mean, they can rip you apart. I mean, the woman's word is much better than the man, but I don't mean to get this into a red pill type speaking, but, there's a lot of women that have more leverage than men. And so finding that proper woman and then developing that relationship with her, I think, is something to keep in mind. Again, you don't want to get lost in the thought, in overthinking the situation. But at the same time, you got to keep your wits about you, because there are a lot of female predators out there that want to, take advantage of good men.
Yeah. if you're retaining, you're gonna just instantly feel, like you can just feel the energy. If you're retaining, you just know. It's intuition. You just know what feels right and what doesn't. You know, I could give you all the criteria to check off, but you know, a man who's retaining for extended periods of time, he's not a dummy. Because he's not being controlled by lust, he's not going to get hoodwinked. He's looking for an authentic connection, and he'll know if it is or if it isn't. It's just trusting yourself, trusting the knowing. And you'll know within the first few moments of, I really believe you'll know within the first few moments of meeting her. You'll just know. You'll just feel it. Now, you can deceive yourself if there's something else you're looking to get from the situation. Like if something within you isn't wholesome, then you're going to attract something in her that isn't wholesome. And if you're not honest with yourself about that, then you can overlook that. Like, you know, in the past I got with several different women who weren't good for me, and you know, could fall into that category of toxic if I wanted to put her in a category. But because I was looking for that on some level, there was a part of me that wanted that, then I kind of ignored red flags. So it's about being in that place of integrity within yourself, where it's like you genuinely want to find a suitable woman to make your wife, and just trusting the knowing, the intuition. Because a releaser, a guy who is more dominated by lust, a guy who's just wants to have sex, just wants to have those sensations, he's not in his right mind. If we're really getting down to it, a releaser, a guy who regularly releases, he's not in his right mind. So he's not going to choose wisely. He's gonna overlook red flags. He's gonna overlook signs and signals that this woman's dangerous, toxic, whatever. But it's not so with the releaser. How do you see that? Do you agree with what I'm saying? As a long-term retainer?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, we've talked about this before. It's like the perspective or what becomes attractive with a woman changes. It's not the bust, right? It's not the cleavage or like just the hips, right? Like those are great when you're looking at a woman for those reasons, but it's not what sells you. What sells you is, again, their temper. And you know, I think we talked about this last time. You know, the gym is a very interesting place when you're retaining, because it signifies or it embodies a very sexual atmosphere. You know, you have men exuding masculinity, and you have women that are, you know, doing the opposite, exuding levels of femininity, trying to be attractive. And so it's almost like a game between men and women, you know, a social game in the gym that you don't find like in a supermarket or, you know, in any other spot.
Not even in a nightclub.
Not even in a nightclub. You're right, dude. You're absolutely right. You're right. Because in a nightclub, men are really tensed up, right? They feel like there's a lot of light on them, and so they're in the corner, right? But in the gym, when you're lifting heavy shit, you know, like you don't care. You are being yourself, and you don't feel like you're being judged. Because also too, it's not that environment. It's not the environment of the club. So you're not going there necessarily with the perspective of hooking up. You know, it's more just that's not the primary reason. And so what I've been doing is I've been working out without my glasses. You know, I don't have contacts or glasses on. And so I can just go off of the feeling of the energy. And there have been times where, you know, there's been a woman within my presence that I just feel is attractive. And I'm not looking at her. I mean, she may or may not be my type. I don't know. But just feeling that energy, just feeling it. It's a completely different experience. And so when the retainer goes to the gym, the retainer is focused on the workout. The retainer has the consciousness in the muscle, in the rep, as you're moving. And the only reason why you're there is to lift the weight. You're not there to look at women. You're not there to get attraction from women or to give attraction. And so that's the difference. Somebody that releases may be going to the gym specifically to get attention. And the workout, the reason why they should be there, the working out is maybe third or fourth on the list. And so A, they're not there for the right reason, and B, they're never going to get to where they want to be because it's not the primary reason why they're there. And so that really changes when you're retaining, when you're going against the grain, and it changes your entire attitude on life. When you're at the gym, you're not there specifically to just goggle it. Like I used to do that, dude. Like it's crazy to talk about. There were times where I would go to the gym specifically just to be around the women, you know? And it's like, there's a reason why I never got to where I wanted to get to in my goals, because it wasn't my primary purpose. It wasn't my main reason of being at the gym. And through attention, you're able to have that pinpoint focus on putting the attention on the task at hand. What is it that you are doing? Everything else doesn't matter. If you're at the gym, you're at the gym. If you're cooking, you're cooking. If you're having a conversation with somebody, it's the conversation. There's nothing else going around. I'm getting bit by about 20 different mosquitoes right now. I can feel it. And there's a little bit of consciousness upon them, but the majority of it is on this conversation. And I want to end with this. This is crazy. I want to end this train of thought here. You know, when you're constantly releasing, you're not really paying attention to the moment. There's a majority of your attention, of your consciousness, devoted to the last time you experienced the orgasm and the desire to feel it again. And that's something that you talked about earlier, right? Is when that experience of having a release or of having that sensation is present within you, it's hard to abate. It's hard to keep that at bay because it's ever present. And so if you can find a way to properly hamper down, or not hamper down, it's when you become focused through attention, everything else fades away. There's nothing else that really, unless you decide to put it at the front of your mind, everything else just kind of fades away. When you're releasing, you're always thinking about the last time you released. You're always thinking about the last image that you saw, the last girl that you looked at. And it's hard to really get this point across to those that haven't retained, that haven't really experienced this. But that level of unabated focal attention towards whatever it is that you want to pay attention to, it's like you know, it's a penetration, as opposed to your mind wandering in 100 different directions. Women, pleasures, drinking, you know, whatever it is that you're trying, whatever pink elephant you're trying to chase. the level of calm that comes when you put this stuff down and you've actually learned to retain, or you've learned to put the bottle down or put whatever it is down, and actually live life is completely different, dude. It's completely different. And I know that you can attest to that with your woman, with your wife. Now that you have a solid, committed woman in your life, a rock, foundation, and you can see that contrast of what it was like when you're just like a leaf blowing in the wind, looking at one woman to the other. Look at this. Oh my goodness. Look. Hey, what is up? Is that little Ezra? Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Look at him.
He's growing, hasn't he?
Beautiful. Growing. Big boy. Look at those eyes. Oh man. I love it.
Can you take him? I'm just doing a call. Thank you.
Wow.
Come on, Papa.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, man.
That was a breath of fresh air. Getting so locked into our conversation, and then there's just this pure little soul just appears.
Just pure potential. Pure light. Beautiful.
Yeah, so
For that.
so I guess that's the key then, isn't it? It's realizing that as a man who's been practicing for a given amount of time, as a man who's really locked into retention, you can trust yourself to make the right decision, to go off your gut, to know if a woman's right for you or not.
Right. You have to go off your gut, right? There's no template. You have to go off your gut, and you have to ultimately, we keep going back to it, but when you're retaining, that provides you the clarity to really blow through these red flags. And I think it's different. Like at my age, mid 30s, going in and now attempting to start a family, going in from scratch with practicing retention. This provides me at this age a level of wisdom that I wouldn't have had in my 20s in terms of what to look for and what not to look for as well. And it's also not, and that's what separates, I think, a lot of men that are practicing in their 20s versus in their 30s, right? Is when you're in your 20s, that level of sexual energy is much more potent. You have much more readily available testosterone within you. It's easier to produce when you're younger like that. So that impulse, that desire, that pull to women is much more like animalistic. I feel like when you get a little older, your reasoning comes in a little bit. And so there's that works with it too. But if you can couple retention with being discerning when you're looking at quality women, you can save yourself a lot of trouble, and you're not necessarily overthinking it because you're feeling into it.
Yeah. There's certain green flags as well that really give you a good confirmation that this is a quality woman. One of the biggest ones is, what does she think about her dad? What's her relationship like with her dad? So I remember asking that to my woman, and she said she said she loves her dad. She spoke highly of her dad. And as soon as she said that, I felt really, really good about her and I. Because it's a pure reflection of how she's going to treat you.
Exactly. That's a big one. That's exactly like you said. It's a green flag. And see, that takes communication. I always think it's funny when a lot of young men want to go on dates, it's the movies. But what are you doing? You're just sitting next to her in a dark room staring at a screen, and then you go home afterwards. Where's the communication? Like, it doesn't have to be fancy. You know, I mean, you could bring her out under this tree right here and just talk to her under this tree for a couple hours, you know? I mean, that's ultimately what it is. And it's getting back to the roots, right? Getting back to the roots of the simple things. Well, if she's got a good relationship with her father, then that's a green flag. That's something you should pursue. It's not anything crazy. It's not what type of clothes she's wearing or perfume or vehicle or anything superficial. And I think that's where the strong relationships are formed, you know? Like, would you want a first date with a woman, or would you want to be going out with a woman that is expecting you to take her to like a 5-star restaurant early on?
Hell
More than
no.
once, you know? Right. And so these are things that men have control over in that sense, you know? It's not always what the woman wants in terms of you having to hold her bag and take her wherever she wants. I mean, you have some say in the matter. If she wants to be taken somewhere that is like way outside, you know, anything conceivable for a first date, you know, like, are you still going to go through with that? Or are you saying, you know what, actually, I got a little more self-worth. That's not really the woman that I'm looking for. So I think that's another big one is men developing a level of self-worth. And that comes from retaining. I mean, if you're constantly releasing, I think it's very hard to have a high concept of self. If you have a level of self-awareness, if you are self-aware and you're releasing, having a high concept of self, to me at least, is difficult. I have to be in a state of retention in order to have a high concept of self. And when I have a high concept of self, I'm less likely to partake in or allow behavior that's going to put me down or put me at risk or put me in harm, you know? Like, if let's say there's a beautiful woman and she wants to be taken to a fantastic restaurant, I'm less inclined to do that now, right? Normally I'd be like, yeah, you know, as long as I get something at the end of the meal, let's do it, you know? And I won't worry about the impact on my wallet later as long as you're taken care of. But now, no.
Not this time.
Not this time. Not this time.
Yeah. The other thing is, you know, like you say, women can turn nasty. But there's so much blaming that we do when we need to come back to ourselves and ask, like, why did that happen? And again, if you're a man who's retaining, even after you find your woman, get married, after you start having sex with her, etc., like, it seems very unlikely that she's ever going to have a reason to turn on you, because where else is she going to find that level of man?
Right, dude.
Like, what reason is she going to have to turn on you? Women only turn on men because they find something better, or they get bored, or the man is like just dropping the ball in some major way. But again, if you're walking the path, like, that's not likely to happen.
Yeah, that's you know, a lot of women like men, I think, at least superficially, they like men that are weak, right? Because they like yes men. They want men that'll do whatever they want. But they don't, though, right? Like, like that's the paradox of it. Women don't like that. Women want a strong rock. Women want a dependable man. Women want a man that's going to lead the family, that's going to lead the ship, not in a dominating, patriarchy, suppressing, womanizing fashion, but in a hey, the man knows what he's doing. Let the man be the man. Let the man lead. And when you're we've talked about this before too. When you're, let's say, and I'm asking this personally for you as well, if you've experienced this, when you're retaining and the woman knows that you're retaining, can you tell that there's still a desire to expel your energy? Of course, there's appreciation for the fact that you're retaining, and that shows that level of strength, that shows that level of determination, that manliness that women desire. And you can tell that women, of course, want to trip you up in that matter. I think they ultimately understand why it is that we're practicing retention, but whether it's through validation for them, knowing that they've actually been able to please us, and that's why they want us to release. They want that validation. Or it's just they want a feeling of control, like, oh, I'm actually the man in the relationship. I have the phallus. It's me. It's the envy of the phallus. I got him to release, and that's all he ever covets is the desire to retain, and I got him to release. And so let me watch him try to rebuild, or let's see how he works through that. That's an interesting concept because, see, when you're practicing retention in a union with a woman, that's you're constantly in battle, right? It's easy for me as a man, right? Like 7 months in, see, I'm not touching myself. It's easy. It's fine. Like I'm not like in the trenches. I'm not in the fire. I'm not practicing. I'm not like actually practicing that level of transmutation. So I'm sure that for you, you've had to get to an understanding of like, okay, well, when I feel like my level of pleasure is at like a 7 or an 8, I have to pull back. I have to stop this. I'm curious as your insight on that as in your relationship with your woman, and have you felt that, like, or is she completely on board with the practice?
Yeah, she definitely wanted it for a long time, and then I think she's just seen over time consistently that it's just like, I'm not going back there. She knows that I'm not going back there, and she loves me, so she's not trying to make me do it.
So you got a quality woman, dude. That's how you know you have a quality woman.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it works out better for her anyway, Like she gets the benefit of being with a retaining man, even if she can't get me off. But the intensity of the bliss when we connect, the ecstasy is, I think she knows that it's something special compared to if I was releasing. So I think she's let that go.
Ultimately, that's because you're in the moment. You're in the moment of the union. You're not trying to just please yourself and to get off, right? Like you're actually in the moment with your woman, making eye contact, feeling together. And I think that's foreign. It's crazy. It's like you'd think that that's a normal thing with intercourse, but no, it's not. Most men have been so desensitized through porn that when we're actually with a woman, we feel like it's like looking at a screen, like it's just it's just another experience. But when you begin to retain and you funnel that energy, and then you're with your woman, it's like, oh wow, this is next level.
Yeah,
you can feel, just like when I was talking about working out, right? And not having the glasses on, and actually feeling the contraction and feeling the movement of the repetition instead of having my awareness out, looking in a mirror or some other shit, when I should be working out. But that the lack of glasses allows that. I think it's the same when you're with a woman. When you're retaining, is your awareness is actually in the action itself. You're not thinking about some other woman. You're not thinking about whatever it is you got to be doing, next week, next year. And that's completely different. And she can feel that. So why would she want you to? You're right. Why would she want you to release in that sense? Why would she want to give that level of intimacy up?
Yeah. And I think another thing that holds a lot of men back from just going out and just finding a wife is that they're afraid of missing out on something better later. They're afraid of making the wrong choice and regretting it. They're afraid of getting bored. At least that's what it was for me. I always thought, no matter who she is, eventually I'll just want to sleep with different women or younger women or whatever. But again, you don't realize what happens when you're retaining. You don't realize just how deep the connection becomes when you're retaining. Like for me, what I'm realizing more and more is that my woman, she's more, rather than seeing her as like just this individual person, rather than seeing her as the ego entity, I experience her as a portal, as a gateway into all that is feminine, into pure feminine energy. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's like a stargate into the feminine universe. So I have access to all femininity through her. So I don't need to go and find other portals. It's just like she is the gateway into that realm. So there's no lack. There's no getting bored. There's no like missing out on something better, because I have access to all of it through her. It's like I was saying recently in the Discord, you eventually realize that all women are the same. Underneath all the layers, they're all the same. They're all the self. They're all that feminine polarity of the self. So I think guys just need to realize, like, stop stressing. Stop thinking, what if I pick the wrong one? What if all these what ifs? When you just, as you're saying, bring all of that focused, condensed presence, attention, awareness into the woman who's in front of you, you'll find that you've got everything you need. You'll find that you can reach absolute peaks of ecstasy with one woman, beyond what you ever imagined.
So it's always the grass is greener, right? We always feel like, oh, well, if we just get this woman, or if we just, I know that maybe, but you're right. Ultimately, you're experiencing the feminine, bottom line. And it's up to your level of appreciation of the feminine. Each time you do it, it's a different experience. And so, most men, I think, replace that level of appreciation for the feminine with the feeling of emptiness, because it's like the more conquest, the more women you get, the more of a feeling of validation there is. And I think that this society, this 30-second short clip, instant gratification society really condones that behavior of just going from one to the next, boom, 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 without ever really developing and cultivating a relationship with a singular woman. It's a completely different experience. We think as men that if we've slept with 100 women that we have a good idea of what the feminine is. But we've literally got the tip of an iceberg 100 times, but it's still just the tip of an iceberg.
Mm.
Right? And when you work out, the reason why you get you start seeing results is because you're consistent with the same action over time. And so when you are jacked as a man or as a woman, whenever anybody is jacked, it's because they put discipline and consistency, dedication, loyalty to a specific action over and over and over again. And see, that expresses a level of their character as well. Well, there's somebody that's actually committed, that shows a level of commitment to something. And it's a very similar thing to developing a relationship with a woman or with a friend or with anything. You can have, would you rather have 1,000 friends on your Facebook, or would you have 5 solid bros that you really, really know inside and out, your round table? And like you said, the woman that you're with, without overthinking it, finding that woman, you can express or you can experience all levels of femininity. There's not one that's missing. There's not one that's missing because she's a woman. Just like she can experience the levels of masculinity through you as a man. They've got to be encouraged, right? Like if your wife's or your woman is degrading you and telling you that you're a woman or whatever the case may be, then that's not conducive to her experiencing the most masculine aspects of you. So it takes 2 to tango in that regard. You have to cultivate and encourage the other to express that in it of, that's within themselves. But yeah, I don't know if that made sense, but that's what I'm going with.
I like it.
Thank you.
So is there any other, I suppose, questions or anything else you want to explore in this topic?
I'm sure there are. I mean, at the moment, probably not. But by the time they come up, we're going to be done recording, and it'll be fruitless for me to bring them up.
Yeah. Well,
do you have anything, Ben?
No, I think that we've covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah. Kind of all over the place, but I like it. I like that. I know we kind of set the intention of discussing the perfect matrimony, and we did. I think it kind of revolved a lot about encouraging that union with a woman, but we did kind of bounce around, and I like that.
Yeah, I feel like I've been a what are they called? Apologetics, people who defend the faith. I feel like I'm an apologist for getting with a woman.
Well, it's a different twist. It's a different tango, right? Because you're going at a different speed than what is typical with the retention community, which is all about chastity. It's all about, abstaining from PMO. And that's great. That's a solid foundation. What's after that? Where do you take that? How do you transmute that energy properly? And ultimately, we're humans. See, we are limited in a sense to this vessel, right? Like there are rules to the game. I can't put my hand through this tree right now, despite how much I want to. I can't do it. And I am I am a man. You are a man. And we are in the game in this realm of earth. An aspect of that is procreation. To what degree do you take that? I mean, I'll end it with this. When you quit drinking alcohol, you don't quit drinking all liquids. You still got to drink water. And so, it's like when you quit PMO, when you quit lust, it doesn't mean you're quitting any form of reproduction. It just means you're cutting out a really, really bad part of it, or an aspect of that could cause harm.
A corrupted aspect.
That's how I'm starting to see it. And it's I understand the level of of feeling like an apologetic, like needing to stand up for it, right? Because it's not a very talked about subject. The perfect matrimony.
This is what I find so crazy, man. Like, honestly, it's so... The lack of information speaks volumes, or the lack of people talking about this speaks volumes to me. So, I really get the sense that it's the time. Like Samael says, it was forbidden knowledge for most of history. And people were killed for sharing this knowledge. So, I really feel like it's the time to make it known, make it well known.
Okay. The sexual energy, when it's harnessed, is literally an unstoppable force when you can transmute it, and especially when you can transmute it with a woman. See, that's why there's a constant war on men to drain them. PMO is free. And it's not about the pleasure, it's about getting the man drained and a constant state of being released, of apathy. Because then you don't want to do anything. You don't want to stand up and exude any level of masculinity when you're completely drained. Just like you don't want to eat a meal after you've eaten a huge meal. You're tired. You're satiated. That's the thing. You're satiated, And so when you don't have that underlying level of tension from retention, then you don't have the motivation or the oomph to get anything done. And so there's an effort. It's to the best interest of the powers that be that that want to keep you in a state of satiation, of being drained. I'll say this last thing about it. About looking at lust or the desire to release. Like if you look at liquor, if you look at alcohol, see that's everywhere. You can't go down a street without seeing a billboard for alcohol.
I just got to let you know, bro. I've got to bounce in 30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay.
But finish that
retain,
thought.
Join the Sons of God community. There is one-on-one mentoring available. God bless. May peace be with you.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate this call.
Likewise. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for your time. I love you, brother.
Love you too, bro. Much love to all the kings out there. Stay strong.
Next time.